Okay, most of you. Okay. Ready? Bismillah wa salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Welcome back, everybody. We left off getting introduced to the science of Balaaghah, and we made some introductory comments. What is the official definition of Balaaghah?
Oh, something that's like very clear.
No, that's fasaha.
Oh, my bad.
Right, and I actually want you guys to be able to say the Arabic definition by tomorrow. So I want you to be able to say it. Mutabaqatul kalami li muqtabal hal. So you can underline that in your notes. Mutabaqatul kalami li muqtabal hal. It's the first line under session 2 where it says, what is balagha? You see it?
Yes.
Yep. So just underline that. I expect you guys to be able to say that. Okay? Because I want you to sound smart. So it's really cool to like sound smart if you're not. It's really cool. Works for me all the time.
Me too.
Yeah. Okay. So because of that that definition, the author gave a few examples. Some of those examples require some more background knowledge. I put them here, but I think we'll come back to them. But the ones that are easier to understand, I'll go through them now so you guys can see where he's going with it. So this is a fun example. Rathi, the Baramika were people that were an elite clan under a certain caliphate. And the Baramika helped, I believe it was Harun al-Rashid, come to power, or at least his grandfather come to power. But at some point they had a falling out with the government. So you can imagine millionaires got on bad terms with the government. And those millionaires then got basically annihilated. The entire families were decimated. So every one of them got killed. Like, you know, when they want to take you out, they take all of you out, because the thing is with millionaires, if a few of them survive, they'll use their money to buy assassins, to take revenge. So the only way to solve the problem back in the day is to just wipe out the entire clan, right? So the Baramika were an elite clan at one point who were on good terms with the state under Muslim rule. And then later on, they were on bad terms with the state. And then they became more popular because they were very generous and did a lot of social work. So they were seen by the state as a threat to the state because they were becoming too popular among the people. So the problem with totalitarian governments, dictatorships, and that sort of thing is that they're not just threatened by outside powers, or they're not just threatened by people that are trying to take the throne from them, if you will. They're actually threatened by anybody who owns a positive opinion in the hearts of the population. So anybody who becomes influential in a good way needs to get shut down. Because if people are listening to them and have a positive opinion of them, that is the polar opposite of what people see the dictators to be. Dictators are regarded and loved and respected and revered because they are feared, not because they're loved. Right? You show them regard and reverence because you care for your life, not because they've done something for you. And then on top of that, now you have some other people that are doing social work or welfare kinds of projects, and they're helping people, and they're getting known for their generosity, and you start wishing, man, I wish they were the king. So even though the people that are helping you don't wish for kingdom, people start hoping that if only someone like that could be running the country, right? So the state, if it is kind of dictatorial, sees people like that as a threat and then takes extreme measures, right? And this is their version of homeland security. This is something that's existed in history. It's repeated itself many times. And in fact, you may have heard that many great scholars of Islam were beat and tortured, right? Under Muslim rule, they were beat and tortured. Part of the reason is the same. They were just becoming far too influential. There are places in the Muslim world now where certain scholars, speakers, even books are banned in the Muslim world, because if they were heard or read, then and the people that the authors of those books may well be alive, but they're far too influential for them to continue to carry on their work, even if they mean no harm to the state. It's just the fact that they have such a large audience is itself a problem. That itself can pose the problem. Anyway, so this happened to the Baramika, who were very generous. And they were generous also to poets because they wanted to promote the arts and promote, language and literature and culture. And this poet who's, crying about their assassinations, right, is going to make a poem about them. But the problem is, if he makes this poem about the Baramika, what's going to happen? He's going to get killed, right? So what does he do? He says, "Usibtu bisadatin kanu uyunan." I was afflicted by the news of great leaders that used to be like springs of water, like they used to be like well springs. Bihim nasqa idan qata al ghamamu. We used to get water from them when the clouds would stop raining. So he's talking about leaders that used to be springs of water, and says, I was afflicted by them, meaning I was afflicted by the news that he doesn't say they've been killed. Now, he doesn't say they killed leaders that blah, 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 blah. Because the moment you say they killed, then you're accusing the government. And that means you're on the hit list too. So he says, I have been saddened by leaders that used to be, and he doesn't say who the leaders are. So he's using a form of balagha. Why? Because the situation demands two things. It demands that he express his sorrow, but it also demands that he save his skin. He doesn't want to get killed expressing his sorrow, so he's got to be clever about it. So he chooses language that fits the situation, and he can craft his message through a delicate circumstance. You understand? So this would be an example of, saying precisely what's needed given the situation. Or another example, this is an even easier example. They say, for example, when somebody steals in the marketplace, like somebody just walked by, grabbed some bread and ran off, or grabbed a piece of cloth and ran off in the bazaar, right? So you could, the shopkeeper could just say, I had a piece of cloth here, and that young man over there wearing the red hat is running in that direction that took my piece of cloth. Please someone catch him. Or he could just say what? Thief! He could just do that, right? Which one is the right call for the situation? Why? Because nobody has the time for the speech. By the time you're done with your khutbah, the guy will be done, and he'll give the cloth as a birthday present to his grandkids. So you got to catch the guy. So that situation demands that you use less words, and you say just one word, and that's enough, because it's an emergency situation. Similarly, if there's a fire, you don't need to say the entire sentence. All you can say is what? Fire, right? That's all you say, and that's enough. Okay. The same way, قال تعالى, and another kind of example of that. And this is a Quranic example. This is a typo. وَأَنَّا لَا نَدْرِي أَشَرٌ أُرِيدَ بِمَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ أَمْ أَرَادَ بِهِمْ رَبُّهُمْ رَشَدًا in Surah Al-Jinn. And we had no knowledge, was evil intended for the ones on the earth, or did their master intend good for them? So let's write that in English so you can appreciate what's happening here. So many of you are familiar with this example. Was evil intended for those on the earth, or did their master intend good for them? Okay. So Rashad is more than good, but still, for the purpose of simplicity. How many times has intention been mentioned? It's been mentioned twice. But in the first case, whose intention is it? Yeah, it's mysterious. It's not mentioned whose evil intention. Evil was intended, but we're not told by whom. And in the second case, meaning Allah. Allah. And let's replace the word evil. Let me use a better word here. Harm. Shar can mean harm also. Was harm intended for those on the earth, or did their master intend good for them? This is an example of what considerations. Again, speech is determined, eloquent speech is when you take the situation under consideration. So one part of this is I want to have reverence for Allah when I speak. I want to have regard for Allah when I speak. So Allah controls good and evil. Allah controls harm and Allah controls benefit. I could simply say, did Allah intend to harm them, or did Allah intend to do something good for them? I could attribute both to Allah. But my reverence for Allah and my it makes me feel like I don't even want to use the word harm close to the word Allah. So the jinn, when they speak, they show this reverence for Allah. And so the situation called for them using that version was harm intended, as opposed to did their master intend harm. But when it came to meaning well, meaning good, they give credit back to Allah and they say that's not a mystery, was or did their master intend good for them? So it's an immediate switch. Later on, this kind of thing can be used for other purposes too, not just for reverence. It can be used, for instance, where you want somebody, if you study or contemplate Allah a lot, and you study the Quran, you study your religion, you ask questions, you seek knowledge, then your appreciation of what Allah does and how He operates in the universe and what role He plays in my life, you get a better view of that. But if you have a very shallow understanding of Allah, very surface level understanding of Allah, and you hear someone say, did Allah want to harm or did Allah want to do good? And you don't have even a little bit of depth to know that what is meant by that, then you might take that statement like a meme and make your own conclusions and then say, I think Allah intends harm for people. Right? And you might walk away with a very shallow and a dangerous conclusion. So sometimes the speaker might protect his audience from dangerous conclusions, from shallow conclusions. So if I'm speaking to students that have been studying Quran for a while, I can speak in a certain way because they understand other ayat, other passages, other concepts that are not being discussed right now, but they're in the background helping you understand the subject at hand. If I'm talking to somebody with no background, then the way I choose my words has to be much more careful because they don't have what's called the khalfiyah, the previous required knowledge that will help them put this in the right context. So it can be taken out of context very easily, right? So that's also a consideration of balagha. So, if I'm teaching this material, this course, to people that have never studied Nahu and Sarf before ever, then the words I choose, the examples I choose, what I choose to put on the screen, all of that's going to change because I need to now consider a different situation than some people that have done some of their work, and have some of that background. So that's another example of, mutabaqatul kalam li muqtada al-hal, just choosing language in accordance with the situation. Okay. Ooh, we're here. Balagha, let me talk to you for a minute. Balagha is studied in Arabic under 3 sciences. There are 3 topics that we study in Balagha. And you can think of them as 3 books. Each of them is a book on its own. Okay? The first of them is called Ilm al-Ma'ani. Ilm al-Ma'ani. Okay? First, I'll give you the names of each of them, then I'll explain what each of them does. Okay? And what we study under each of them. So there's Ilm al-Ma'ani, then there's Ilm al-Bayan. Ilm al-Bayan. If you want to write this in English also, M-A-A-N-I, Mani. And Bayan, B-A-Y-A-N, Bayan. Ilm al-Ma'ani, the science of Ma'ani, the science of Bayan. And then the third one is called the science of Badi'. Badi', B-A-D-E-E apostrophe, Badi', if you want to transliterate, okay? So what are those sciences again? You tell me. This is something you should write down. You should know this. Ma'ani, Bayan, Badi'. Okay, so Ma'ani, Bayan, and Badi'. Now, these 3, each of them are very different from each other. They're totally different subjects from each other. You could learn a lot about Ilm al-Ma'ani and know nothing about the other 2. Possible. You could know a lot about Ilm al-Bayan and know nothing about the other 2. Possible. Okay, so they're almost completely separate topics. There's almost no overlap at all between them. And it's as if when you're analyzing a text from a balagha point of view, you can put the Ilm al-Ma'ani lenses on and you see something. Then you take those glasses off and you put what on? You put Ilm al-Bayan lenses on, you see something else that you didn't see when you were looking at it from the Ilm al-Ma'ani point of view. Then you put the Badi' lenses on and you see something else. Now here's another tricky thing. Not everything you read will have all 3. Sometimes a statement has no ilmul bayan, it only has ilmul ma'ani, and not the other two. Sometimes there's a statement that has all three. Now, sometimes it has all three. Sometimes it has just one. Sometimes it has two out of the three. So we're going to develop a sense for how to look for these things, how to look for ma'ani, badi'a, and bayan. So far, so good? Okay. Now, al-ma'ani is the one that we're going to cover or start covering, actually, to be honest, to start covering in this intensive. We're not even going to touch bayan or badi'a. We're way far away from that. My intention is to teach this intensive and to get you started on which one? Ilmul Ma'ani. Then I'm going to let you go home, cry and recover from this traumatic experience. And then I'll take a break, improve my free throw shot. And eventually, when I get to over 70%, I will hold another intensive and continue where we left off and do some more of Ilmul Ma'ani. Hang out again. I don't think I'll do 5 days again. I'll probably do a weekend. But we'll do a little bit more of Ilm al-Ma'ani. Wherever we leave, give you some time off again. Hey, let's have another party on the weekend, and let's do a little more Ilm al-Ma'ani. And we'll keep going until we're done with all of the sciences. Okay, that's my idea. Okay, so, but I will only do this in intensive form because I don't want to spread this out. I want to do it in chunks. You get a bunch of it done, then you get a whole bunch of it done, then you get a whole bunch of it done, and inshallah we'll be done with the entire science. So let's talk a little bit about what these three guys mean. I'll start with the last one, ilmul badi'a. I'll start at the backwards. My grammar students will know I defined harf first, right?
Yeah.
Right? So badi'a is where we'll start. Badi'a is when you do, you know what, anyone know what embellishments are? What's an embellishment? Yeah, like bells and whistles, like decorations. You know, you add things that make something look cooler. You put a touch of color here in interior design, contrasting pillows. They're embellishments. They're not structural. They add to the style, the look and feel of something, right? So badi' is about how you make speech more stylish. How does it become more artistic? How does it become more embellished? Like, for example, rhymes sound cool, right? But if something doesn't rhyme, does it still make sense? So without rhyme, things don't make sense? So without rhyme, stuff still makes sense. But when you hear somebody rhyme, like, the way Muhammad Ali used to talk, right? There's a certain rhythm to his speech that you just get wrapped up in, and the style pulls you in, right? So the embellishment that he's using is rhyme scheme, right? It's not essential to speech, but it definitely enhances speech in a really interesting way. It's a way of captivating somebody's attention. Does it have a psychological effect? Does it have an emotional effect? It certainly does. It certainly does. So just because it's an embellishment doesn't mean it doesn't have an effect. It does. So there can be sound. It's more about how things sound. So embellishments are more about how things sound. And so ilmul badi' will cover a lot of that. Embellishments in speech, enhancements in speech. If you said it this way, it would be more stylistic. If you said it that way, it wouldn't have as much, it wouldn't pack as much of a punch as this one did, okay? So that's badi'. Let's work backwards again. What's the one before that one? Bayan. Bayan is basically about figurative speech. Basically, okay? Figurative speech. Let me explain what figurative speech means. It's got a lot of things in it. Similes and metaphors and parallels and, figures, all other kinds of figures of speech. When you speak directly, what's this thing called in construction? This gray thing? What's it called?
Oh, pillar.
A pillar, right? But you can say that man is a pillar in the community, can't you?
Yeah.
Because that man is a pillar in the community. What are you saying? He's definitely not shaped like a cylinder. I mean, maybe. Yeah, he's holding up the community. He's an essential component of it. So you're by using the word pillar, you've actually made someone very quickly imagine what a pillar is, what it does in a building, and what he does for a community is a lot similar to what a pillar does to a building. right? But instead of spelling all of that out, you just quickly went to figurative speech by using what word? Pillar, and all of that got encapsulated. And we use this so much that we don't even think about the fact that it's figurative speech. Figurative speech is so common now, especially in English, that the imagery behind it, because behind figurative speech is an image. And that image is making you, it's an image of something else, and it's making you think of something else, right? Everybody knows what a lion is. Everybody knows what a lion is. But if you say, I saw a lion on the battlefield, or he was a lion on the battlefield, it definitely does not mean that he grew a tail, or he walked on all fours. It means no such thing. It means what a lion would be as opposed to all other animals: undefeated, ferocious, feared, stronger. All of those qualities I saw, it's as if I'm seeing a lion in the jungle, is when I saw him on the battlefield. You understand? So what is it doing? The simple definition is figurative speech. You're not talking literally, you're talking figuratively. But if you want to get a little more technical, think of it this way. The word lion has a meaning in the dictionary, yes? When you use figurative speech, you're using the word lion, which has a meaning in the dictionary, but you're going to use it for a meaning other than the one you found in the dictionary. I know what you mean, lion, but I'm going to use it for Abdul Karim over here. Okay? So you borrowed the word from here and you used it somewhere else, right? Pillar means something, but I used it somewhere else, right? So when you study ilm al-bayan, you're looking at words that have a meaning, but you're not using them literally in that meaning. You're borrowing them from there. But the question is, why would you borrow this word? You definitely borrowed this word because this word has qualities that you want to use, and it brings to mind an image that you want to employ when talking about the other thing, right? Yeah, we called it isti'ara, that's right. But there's more to it than that. But generally, ilm al-bayan is about these kinds of things. It's about figures of speech, it's about the imagery, it's about not being so literal, and this is actually a very powerful tool in the Quran. Some people historically have had a problem with, there's no figures of speech in the Quran. It's all literal. Allah says what He means what it says. You must not know much Arabic to say that, because Allah asks us, we ask Allah for guidance on what? Guidance, Fatiha. What do we ask for guidance on? The straight path. The straight path. A path is something you walk on. A path is straight, is actually the image of a road that's not winding. And the sirat was used for a path in the desert between cities and stuff like that, like those single highway that gets you there. And you veer off of it, you're going to get lost in the desert. That's a straight path. Okay? If we were literally asking Allah for guidance on the straight path, there would literally be a highway somewhere that's really straight, and we want Allah to guide us so that we end up on that road so we can go along the straight path. Is that what we're asking Allah? Or are we employing the imagery of a straight road, and we're using that image to talk about a life that we want to lead that's very similar to that journey? Do you understand? So even the Fatiha has what in it? Has figurative speech in it, has ilm al-bayan in it. You understand? So this is a very powerful, very rich feature of the Arabic language, and the way that it has been studied, you guys study this in English literature class. Similes and metaphors and all that stuff that you studied, that you slept through in high school. Like, why are we doing this? Shakespeare, right? So that stuff, we're going to do that stuff and then some. Like, you'll see that the Arabs actually had a really interesting take on figurative speech. And we'll compare it even to English literature. We're going to look at how the Western literary tradition looks at it, and how the Arab heritage looks at it, the Arabic literary heritage looks at it. But that'll be much later, because that's ilm al-what? Ilm al-bayan. Ilm al-bayan. Ilm al-bayan is one of my favorites, because the examples in the Quran are the most glaring samples of ilm al-bayan, but ilm al-bayan happens all over the place. All over. Like one of my favorite ilm al-bayan examples, briefly to mention, is wafarat an-nur. Wafarat an-nur. I know. Oh, I got hurt. I'm sorry, baby. I don't laugh at your expense. I hope it feels better. What was I saying? What example?
Oh,
Farat tanur. Tanur is the cauldron. You don't know what a cauldron is? You don't have cauldrons in your home. A pot. But a giant pot. Like one of those big pots that, they put the entire animal in it and you can't see it. Back in the day kind of pots, right? Giant fire, huge cauldron, right? And when that cauldron is boiling over, when the giant pot is boiling over, the expression uses farat tanur. In the story of Nuh alayhi salam, he's preaching to them for 9 centuries plus, yes? And Allah says eventually farat tanur, which literally means the cauldron boiled over. The pot boiled over. But what is he actually saying? He's saying something literal and something figurative, or something semi-figurative, and then something extremely figurative, both at the same time. Let me show you. First of all, the language being used is the pot boiled over, right? And he's comparing the pot to the valley in which Nuh alayhi salam and the people were, and as the water is coming and filling the valley, it's overflooded the valley and it's boiled over. Or the water from the other sides has risen enough that it's boiling over and now coming into their valley. So it's a really heavy way of describing what? The flood. But why does a pot boil over? Heat. Heat. And literally boiling over, right? Heat. The situation is intensifying. Their disbelief and their disregard and their rebellion is intensifying. And the intensity with which they disbelieve and the aggression they're showing towards Prophet Nuh and his followers is like a fire that's getting hotter and hotter and hotter. And here they think that the more they intensify, they're closer and closer to killing or ending the problem of Nuh and his followers. But they don't realize that the cauldron they're heating is boiling over on who? On themselves. The situation is actually getting more heated. And all of that is very briefly encapsulated in Wafarat an-Nur and more. Right? So ilm al-bayan is a very rich subject in the study of the language of the Quran. And here's where you will find that even though we haven't touched ilm al-ma'ani, and by the way, in my lectures, older lectures, I was more inclined towards ilm al-ma'ani than the other two. I was more aware of them, more sensitive to ilm al-ma'ani. So you'll find in my early lectures, there's a lot less discussion on this dimension. Even though it's there, there's a lot less of it. And the other side is far more, which I haven't even defined yet, which is what? Ilm al-ma'ani. So the simple definition of ilm al-bayan is figures of speech. Okay? Now we get to ilm al-ma'ani. Ilm al-ma'ani is language techniques or linguistic techniques. For grammar students, I can even dare to say nahu and sarf techniques used to communicate special meanings. Nahu and sarf techniques used to create special meanings. That might probably is an insight into why I was obsessed with this subject, because I'm obsessed with nahu and sarf, and the one science that utilizes nahu and sarf and makes a direct connection with balagha is which of these three? Ilm al-ma'ani. Ilm al-ma'ani uses your knowledge of grammar and of morphology of sarf and turns them into techniques that communicate special meanings. Okay? So that's ilm al-ma'ani. Basically, you cannot learn ilm al-ma'ani without what? Without nahu and sarf. Because all the discussions that are happening in ilm al-ma'ani need that knowledge. They suppose that you have that knowledge. You understand what nakira means, what ma'rifah means, what mubtada means, what khabar means, what tasrif means, what madi means, what mudari' means, what amr means, all of that stuff. It requires knowledge of all of that. And it's a really amazing science. Like if you love Arabic grammar, or you begin to understand Arabic grammar, you'll fall in love with it all over again as you're learning which of these three? Ilm al-ma'ani, which is what we're going to get into now. Ilm al-ma'ani, okay? And ilm al-ma'ani begins with 3 terms. So I'm going to introduce you to these 3 terms now. Okay? Everybody needs to know these terms. Scholars of tafsir use these terms all the time. And you're going to have to get used to these terms. I am not teaching you grammar. I'm teaching you what? No, not even Balaaghah is too general now, because Balaaghah has 3 departments. Ilmul. So the terms I'm giving you now belong where? Ilmul ma'ani. So this is not a nahu term. This is not a bayan term. This is not a badi' term. The terms I'm giving you are ma'ani terms. These are ilmul ma'ani terms. You clear? So within that, when you start learning ilmul ma'ani, you got to know 3 terms. Let me write them for you. I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll do the usloop thing last. I think it's not as fundamental, so it can wait. You got to know these 3 terms. How many folks have heard these terms before? Nobody? Good. I'm happy. Then I get to corrupt your minds for all anew. Okay? I'm going to leave that there for 10 seconds for you to write it down because I need you to know this. Ilm al-Ma'ani needs 3 terms. What are they? Musnad, Musnad ilayhi, and Qaid. Qaid. I'm going to give you some epic definitions of each. They're going to be really like PhD level definitions. They're going to hurt your brain, but I care very little about your feelings. So here goes. Musnad. We'll start with Musnad ilayh. Make things more complicated. Musnad ilayh. Who are you talking about? What's the definition? Who are you talking about? Let me write the technical definition on the screen in case it's too hard for you. Hold on. Who are you talking about? Why is it that way? What's happening? Why is this question mark over here? Why? Microsoft? Oh. Okay. No. Who you talking about? What? I give up. No, I pressed enter. Wow. Wow, Microsoft. Wow. Okay, anyway, assume the question is in the right place. Who are you talking about? Oh, Musnad. What you saying about them?
Wait, that's Musnad?
Yeah. What is Musnad ilayh?
Oh, who are you talking about?
Who are you talking about? What's Musnad ilayh? That's Musnad ilayh. What's Musnad? What you say about them? So if I said, you're ugly. What's the Musnad and what's the Musnad ilayh? What's the Musnad? Ugly. What's the Musnad ilayhi? Asnadna al-ugly ilayka. So, who you're talking about, what you're talking about, that's the Musnad ilayh. What are you saying about them? Musnad. Okay, let me give you another example. Ustad bored me. Ustad bored. Ustad bored. Who are you talking about? So I'm the Musnad ilayhi. Thank you very much. What you attributing to me? What you saying about me? Bored. That's the Musnad. Who you're talking about is Musnad ilayhi. What you're telling me about them is Musnad. Now this is not mubtada khabar. This is not fi'il fa'il. This is bigger than that. Because the mubtada and the fa'il and other things can be the musnad ilayhi. And the khabar and the muta'alliq bil khabar and the fi'il can all, and the sifa and the tamyiz can all be musnad. Because you're not asking a grammar question. What's rafa', what's nasab, what's jar, what's in the beginning, what's at the end. You're not asking that. You're stepping back and saying, who are we talking about? And what are we saying about them? And so Balaaghah asks a different question than what Nahu asks. You with me? It asks a different question. When I say Allah created, what do you think? Good. Musnad ilayhi is, we don't say Allah, we say lafzul jalala, right? Because when we talk about Allah in language, we say lafzul jalala. So musnad ilayhi is lafzul jalala, and created would be that would be the musnad. Allah the wise. Allah the wise.
And then the wise is musannad.
Lafzul jalala is musnad ilayhi, and wise is what you're saying about him. Therefore, it is the musnad. What's left? Qaid. Qaid means restriction. But before you write the word definition down, understand the logic of it. When I say, I love, then I mentioned the musnad ilayhi, I, and I mentioned the musnad, which is what? Love. But if I said, I love ice cream, then I restricted my love to what? Ice cream would be a qaid. It limits the musnad in some way. Otherwise, love was going in every direction. But now, love is going towards what? Ice cream. It's restricted the meanings of the musnad. Okay? So now what you're saying about them is a limit is placed on it. So what is qaid? It is when you place a limit on the musnad. So you cannot understand qaid if you don't understand musnad. Okay, it depends on the musnad. I say Allah created the skies and the earth. Allah created the skies and the earth. What do you think? Musnad, musnad ilayhi, qaid. Musnad ilayhi is lafzul jalala. Sure. Musnad is create the skies and earth, because I didn't say created everything. I didn't say created human beings, created jinn. I mentioned here what? Skies and earth. In this statement, I placed the qaid of skies and earth. Okay? These three terms you will find when you study a linguistic tafsir of the Quran. You'll find the scholar using the word musnad, musnad ilayhi, and qaid. Okay? And I could have given you a technical definition. The thing to which an attribution is made, the attribution, and the restriction placed upon the attribution, but you would have had a mental janaza. So what did I tell you? What's the definition of musnad ilayhi?
Oh, what you talking about?
Who are you talking about? What's musnad?
Oh,
What you saying about them? What's qaid? Restriction on the musnad. It's almost, qaid is like, can you be more specific? That's what qaid is. You know, like love what? Cockroaches or what? What? No, okay, ice cream. Okay. That's all it is. You see what I'm trying to do? I'm trying to take something that's very technical and makes you sound really smart and make you realize that ain't so hard. What you talking about? That's all it was. What you talking about? Who you talking about? That's all it is. So don't be intimidated by the subject. Sometimes the words are big. Now you guys should feel really smart because I know what a musnad is. You know, when somebody says, what's a musnad? You should say, what you talking about? Oh, walk away. Yeah. Oh, page 15. Okay. Let's do it. Drills. Sinundal, yeah. This one? Okay. I'm going to, for those of you who have trouble understanding this, let's go over, these are famous ayats, so they shouldn't be so hard. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. Find me the musnad ilayhi and qaid. No, do this in paper. You can discuss with each other. And then there's الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ. Find me the musnad ilayhi and qaid, if there is any. And then in Allahu nuru samawati wal ardi, musnad ilayhi and qaid. Huh? First of all, should I do one with you? You want to do one with you?
Yeah.
Which one you want? Pick one.
Iyaka.
First one? Okay, translate for me.
Iyaka.
Write the translation. Okay, we worship only you, and we seek help only of you. Okay, we worship only you, we seek help only of you. Okay, show of hands. Who can remind me what a musnad ilayhi is? Show of hands. Go ahead. Tell me your name. Abdul Hakim. Give me some hikmah. Musnad ilayhi. Who are you talking about? Who are you talking about? Is musnad ilayhi. And we worship you and we ask your help. Who are we talking about?
Oh, Lafdal Jalala. We're talking about you.
We're hungry. We want to eat. We want to study. We want to worship. We ask for help. Who are you talking about? Why are you getting so religious? If Allah is mentioned, we're talking about Allah. No. You can be talking about you. It's okay. It's halal. Don't get Islamic with Arabic. Stay in Arabic. It's not religious. Astaghfirullah, you said this ayah is talking about us. That's because it is. You're the musnad ilayhi. We are the musnad ilayhi. You get it? What you saying about us? So seeking help and worshiping, not in that order, worshiping and seeking help is the musnad. What about, who are we? So are we seeking everybody's help? Are we worshiping everything? No. So what happens to the iyaka? Ah, those are qaid. Let's do that again. Huh? So what's inside na'budu? What pronoun is inside na'budu? So nahnu is the musnad ilayhi. You don't have to say noon is the musnad ilayhi because you're getting grammatical. We're not talking in grammar. We're talking in Balaaghah. In Balaaghah, what does the noon represent? Nahnu. So nahnu is the musnad ilayhi. Okay? And then the act of isti'ana or ibadah and isti'ana are the musnad. The ideas. You're not talking grammar now. You're talking ideas. The idea of us is the musnad ilayhi. The idea of worship and seeking help is the musnad. And what restriction has been placed on the musnad? You. So the you referring to Allah is the qaid. Okay, I'm going to let you guys work on this one. Talk to each other. Find new people to talk to. الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ, and it's misspelled. And Allahu nuru samawati wal ardi.
So Alladina, those who because it's Ina, those who yu'minuna, they believe Balaaghah, the unseen. So
Anybody need help with translation? Alladhina, those who yu'minuna, they believe
the unseen.
the unseen, in the unseen.
Okay, so number 2 is like who, right? Yeah, so Alladina would be 2. Who's it talking about though? Yeah, so that's the Musannad Ilay. Who they talking about? So this is 2, right? بالغاي. Okay, so this one and this is three. How do you know what each one is actually? Because number one is musannad, two is musannad. That's already 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Because this is musannad that is they're talking about. Three is the restriction. The restrictions on Luna or whatever. Those who believe not. Those who believe. الله نور السماوات والأرض.
Okay, well, any volunteers? You got to come up to the mic though. Want to try it? Go. Which one you going to do? الذين يؤمنون بالغيب? Okay. Yep. What's your name? You don't have to put it down. Just no, you don't. You just step back. No, step back. Step where Maryam is. Go where Maryam is. And now look at me. And it's okay. Now you speak.
Okay. Al-lazina will be musnad ilay. And
Astaghfirullah.
yu'minuna is musnad.
لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله.
Bil ghaib will be qaid.
قاعد or قيد?
Qaid.
قيد?
Qaid.
Sit down. Anybody else? Guys, come on. Come on. Come on. Give me something. Guys, impress me so I can turn the PlayStation on at night for you. On this screen. In 4K. Somebody just woke up when they heard PlayStation. It's like, what? Somebody speak my language. Yes. Come on. Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
I'm doing the third one.
No, second one still.
Oh, I get
Yeah,
it
she
now.
disappointed me, so.
Oh, okay. So Al-Ladina is those who is Musnad Ilahi, Yumina is Musnad, and Bilghab is Khaid.
Correct. Very good. Oh, you did? Oh, okay, you were right. I was just trolling you. Yeah. No, you're both right. Very good.
Thank you.
Excellent job. What's number 3? Number three. New faces. Come on. You want to come? Because you're pointing at him. Like, you want me to? Come on, come on, young man. I like it. You guys are getting Musnad Ilahi and Qaid. That's deep. Yep. Come on closer. Stand right there by the end of the red curtain and look at me and just tell me.
Allah is Musnad ilayh.
So, oh, you're doing the third one?
Yeah.
So when we talk about Allah in any language class, we say Lafzul Jalala. Lafzul Jalala. Say it.
Lafzul Jalala
Excellent.
is Musnad ilayh.
Excellent. Lafzul Jalala is Musnad Ilayhi. Agreed.
Musnad is Nur.
Musnad is
Nur.
Nur. Excellent.
And Al-Qaid is As-Samawat and Al-Ard.
You are brilliant, sir. What's your name?
Abdullah.
Abdullah, you are amazing. MashaAllah. Excellent job. Okay. Lafzul Jalala is the Musnad Ilayhi. Who are you talking about? Allah. What are you saying about him? That he is light. What is he a light of? Can you be more specific? Can you put a limit on it? What's the limit here? The skies and the earth. So that would be the qaid. Now, if I told you that the qaid is the maf'ul bihi, or the qaid is the khabar, or the qaid is, that would be a problem, because sometimes the qaid is a mudaf ilayh. Sometimes the qaid is an adjective. Sometimes the qaid is a khabar. Sometimes the qaid is a maf'ul. We cannot put a grammar restriction on the qaid, because we're not talking about grammar. What is Balaaghah making you do? It's making you focus on the grammar first, and then it's making you take a step back and ask yourself some basic questions. What are those questions? Who are you talking about? What are you saying about them? And what restriction is being placed? Now listen to this. Let's see if you can discuss this with each other and tell me. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. What do you think is the musnad, musnad ilayhi? Actually, not in that order. I like the order musnad ilayhi, musnad and qaid, right? Because that it's easier. Who are you talking about? Then what did you say about them? And then what's the restriction? What do you think in alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen? These keys are mine. These keys belong to me. Am I talking about me or am I talking about the keys? Okay? Just saying. Just saying. What are we actually talking about? Listen. Go there. Come on. And tell everybody your name. Go. Listen, everybody.
My name is Raifi.
Yes, Rafi.
So the Musnad Ilai is Lafzul Jalala. The Musnad is all praise and thanks all praise and thanks belong to him, or Alhamdu. And then the Qaid is Al Alameen.
So close, but no. You want to tell me? No. The question is, does there have to be a qaid in a sentence? No, there doesn't have to be a qaid. You can just say there doesn't have to be a musnad and musnad ilayhi also. I'm not in the mood. Correct. What did I say in my example? These keys are mine. What was I talking about, me or the keys? When I say hamd is Allah's. Hamd is Allah's, yes? Hamd belongs to Allah, hamd is Allah's. What am I talking about? The hamd. The hamd is my musnad ilayhi. What did you learn about the hamd? That it belongs to Allah. And then the word Allah has been given a qaid. Being more specific about Allah, further about Allah, what is it? That He is Rabbil Alameen. Then another qaid, Maliki, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, then Maliki Yawmiddin. Those are all quyud. You can have multiple qaids. When you step back, sometimes when you listen, the thing is when Allah gets mentioned, this is actually a sign of Iman. When Allah gets mentioned, you want to put Allah at the top of the list. So the Musnad Ilayhi has to be Allah, because Allah just got mentioned. I want to praise Allah. So Allah is the most important. Allah is spiritually the most important to you, and I commend you for bending the rules of Arabic to surrender to your spirituality. I love it. But you got to step back and not think that this is blasphemous. It's remarkable that in the Fatiha, what did Allah do? Allah could have made himself the Musnad Ilayhi, by the way. Think about that. Because then the question, who are you talking about, or what are you talking about? Because it could be a who or a what. I started with who, but sometimes it could be a what, like the keys. The keys are not a who, they're a what. So the topic could have been Allah. And you could have said, Allahu lahul hamd. Allah. Hamd belongs to Him. You could have structured it in a way that the word Allah would be the Musnad Ilayhi. But what did Allah do? Allah made the Musnad Ilayhi the Hamd. This important question in Ilm al-Ma'ani, what will it do? It will make me realize what is the focal point. What is the central thought in this sentence, in this statement? The focus is not on Allah yet. The focus is on what? The concept of praise. Now we, in our reverence for Allah, jump immediately to the concept of praising Allah, right? So we jump immediately to the Musnad. But actually, before you go to the Musnad, spend some time on the what? On the Musnad Ilayhi, which is in this case what? So then what happens is a believer looks at that Musnad with the lens of Balaaghah from Ilm al-Ma'ani and says, I need to think about praise and where it goes. without even the musnad, where does praise go? If he's talking about praise itself, then it must mean that it's an important thing in life. Who do you thank and who do you give credit to and who do you appreciate? Right? Thanks, giving credit, appreciation is a notion. And then what we're being told about that notion that exists in my life and yours. You thank your teacher, you thank somebody for giving you a job, you thank somebody who lent you money, you thank somebody who give you good advice and it helped you out. You thank your parents, you thank your friends for getting you out of trouble. So when you thank people, then that's a huge part of life. And thankless people are miserable people that nobody wants to be around, right? And appreciative people, you appreciate things around you. You appreciate a nice car. You appreciate a beautiful city. You appreciate good weather. That's hamd. Hamd is about thanks and appreciation, and thanks and praise. And then from there, the topic shifts over to, well, you're familiar with this notion of hamd. Now know that it should be attributed to Allah. So now you go back to thinking about all the places where hamd goes, without thinking about Allah. All the places that you thought hamd goes. And now you're rewiring all of those and saying, that's actually also for Allah. That's also to Allah. So you start thinking of, when somebody helped me, I'm thinking that they're my helper. And of course I owe them thanks. But they couldn't have been put in place or be in a position to help me had it not been for Allah. So like they're the source of my help, but that source has a source, and the ultimate source becomes Allah. So there's a train of thought that gets created by properly understanding who's the musnad ilayhi and who's the musnad. And then there's the qaids that come along. Okay? Everything okay? Yeah. Yeah. No, we would put the entire muta'alliq bil khabar as the musnad. It's not a word. It's the concept of ownership, meaning belonging to who. The whole thing would be the musnad, and then further information about the owner would be the qaid. Okay. Another qaid could be fi samawati wal ardi or something like that. Those could be qaid. This is good enough for a brief understanding of musnad ilayhi, and qaid. Oh man, it's already 3 o'clock and we didn't even touch. Holy moly. What am I going to do with you people? Huh? So as I wrap up today, we're going to start with the next portion, khabar, tomorrow, inshallah. It's a good place to end. But you guys doing okay so far? Decent pace? Okay. So tomorrow, I would like to ask you some questions. When we start, we're going to have an oral quiz, first thing. So make sure you come late. I have a policy. People who come late get quizzed the most. It's really good policy. It's amazing. If you come late, you're coming straight to the mic. And I'll put you live on my Facebook page. So they play that at your wedding. You're going to tell me a few things tomorrow. Here's what you're going to tell me. You're going to tell me what is fasaha and what's the difference between fasaha and balagha. You're going to tell me the 3 kinds of fasaha. You're going to tell me the 4 things that make a word non-fasih, not have fasaha. You're going to review, because we went through it quickly, you're going to review on your own. You're going to tell me the 6 things that make a speech not have fasaha. Make a speech not have fasaha. You're going to tell me tomorrow the 3 sciences of balagha. How are they defined? The 3 sciences of balagha. I'd like to know that. I'd also like to know what in the world is a musnad ilayhi, and a qaid. I'd like to know all those things before we carry on. I don't want to just give you a lecture. I want to make sure this stuff is in your head and you get it. And as you're exploring it further and thinking about it further, you're going to come up with some really smart questions. Don't ever think your question is stupid. If it is, I'll tell you. But your question is, there's no such thing as a stupid question. A question might expose that you're missing some basics. A question might be ahead of its time. A question might be that you forgot something. Those are all okay. It's fair game. And you came all this way to learn here, to spend some time with me. Plenty of you get plenty of sleep watching me online. Some of you are getting, mashallah, some good sleep watching me in person. It's all good. So long as you get good sleep, that's all I care about. But the point I was making was, since you're already here, why don't you take advantage of the opportunity and bug me as much as you want? Ask me whatever questions you want. You're here. Don't say, I'm sorry, I have a question. I'm really sorry, I have another one. I'm so sorry, I have 3 questions. Stop. You came here to ask questions. And I'm sitting here. My job is to answer your questions. So I will find it in my majestic grace to forgive you for the egregious ask of a question, but I will somehow forgive you and answer your questions because I'm so graceful. No, just ask your questions. What I'm going to try to do, inshallah, from tomorrow is I'll stick around another 30 minutes, 30, 40 minutes after class. So any of you would like to ask questions in person afterwards, get time to do so also. Every night, our Isha prayer, if you guys would like to join us, is going to be at 7 p.m. over here, between 7 and 7:15 usually. We pray, and then I'm continuing my series on Surah Al-Kahf, or otherwise a different reminder. Between one of those two, I'll hold those here in the masjid area, okay? And then after the prayer, since you guys are here, maybe we can play some ping pong and play some pool or something. I don't know. We'll see. Or do nothing, or you'll just send you home, depending on my mood. Am I good at pool? Anyway, any questions before I let you guys go? Anybody? Everybody's good? English is fine. Tomorrow for the definitions, English is fine. I don't need the Arabic terms. Except for ba'ani, badi', bayan, I need the, ilm al-ma'ani, ilm al-badi', I need those terms, but the 6 conditions of fasih speech, 4 conditions of fasih, I don't need those terms. I just need you to know the concepts, okay? Very good. Yes, your question, young lady? Wait, shh, hold on. How do you know the difference between the musnad, musnad ilayhi, and qaid? If you don't know the meaning of the sentence, there's no point in looking for the musnad, musnad ilayhi, and qaid. You can't look at it and figure it out. Dua might help. Or, just keep learning until you get there with your Arabic, inshallah. All right, I had fun. I hope you guys did too. Yeah. Yeah. We'll see it. We'll see it. We're coming to that. We'll see musnad in different situations, qaid in different situations. It's coming. Yeah.
So I had a question about the trade. Is it only restricted to like multiplying the musnad, or it can be like about some other?
It can be, qaid can be later on too. It can be, the qaid could be specifying an already existing qaid and a further qaid on the qaid. It could be a musnad and then the qaid on the musnad. So it can be subcategories. It can, it's possible. It's possible. But it's important to be able to step back and look at the bigger picture. Okay? All right, everybody. Huh? Yeah, because you didn't say everything. You said every one, so you limited it. Didn't you? Okay. All right, go home. Get out of here. Go, go.